Hey, 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 hey. Happy Sunday, you guys. Come on in the room this evening. How is everyone doing? Please like, tag, and share. If you see the red button at the top that says live, then that means that you are reaching me live. If you do not, that means that you are watching the replay. But come on in however you can get in here. Just come on in. Welcome to A Legacy of Love Ministries, and welcome, welcome, welcome. Please like, tag, and share. Listen, me and one of my sister friends, we always talk about how we come on week after week and we say like, tag, and share, right? And so we found ourselves being the only ones liking, tagging, and sharing. And so please like, tag, and share the information that we come to give you each and every week, that we take the time out to come and give you the information. I would like to say that I do not own the copyrights to the music that you will hear playing in the background. And I also would like to let you all know that I still have all 3 of my books available for ordering through Amazon or either through myself. My first one is a 31-day prayer journal for widows only. It is a 31-day prayer journal. God's love for the grieving widow. Also, you guys, some of you know, some of you don't know, that I have a YouTube page that's called God's Love for the Grieving Widow. Please go over there and check it out. It's not for widows only, but this journal is. But go over there, check it out, like, and subscribe, and click the little bell so you'll know when I'm coming on live on my YouTube page, God's Love for the Grieving Widow. Then my second book is There is Beauty in My Brokenness. Now this one here is what happened to my husband when we met until death did us part. It's our story, and it's just near and dear to my heart, and it is called There is Beauty in My Brokenness. My third book is No One Plans to Fail, but Many Fail to Plan. Divine Direction and Connection. Now, you guys, those of you that have been with me over the past 4 years know that I lost my husband unexpectedly 4.5 years ago. I'm coming on my 5th year since I've lost my husband, and so those of you know that all of what I've been going through, and I still am going through some things, still have some challenges coming across my way. But you know what? I found out and I realized that it's actually God building character out of me, right? Building me up so that I would be strong. Hey, sis. And I miss you today. I was looking for you. But, just God, listening to my Bishop Jesse Giddens today, and him just explaining to us and uplifting us and encouraging us about the third day, and kind of taking us back to what Jesus did for us, and how even though we are Christians, that sometimes we can think that the challenges, the hurt, the pain, the loss is not there with us because we're Christians, right? So you may be like I was. I was a little naive about that. My former bishop, Virgil Patterson, he just taught us that the way he taught was similar to Bishop Giddens, but the way he taught was that, you can make it, you can press forward no matter what. You can make it on this journey of life, and so that you can push through it no matter what your circumstances are or what you may be going through. At the same time, we were kind of taught that, listen, and it's not a bad thing, but we were taught that the promises of God are true, and they are. At the same time, until you're actually challenged with certain things, as far as loss or just loss of anything. It could be a person, it could be a parent, it could be, a relative. And until you're actually faced with that death, or until you're faced with that challenge that you felt like your faith could not have been shaken, you learn real quick that when the vicissitudes of life happens in your life, that your faith can be shaken. So next week, I will be graduating from this firstborn of sonship school at my church, and I'm excited about it, and I've learned so much. Hey, cousin. I've learned so much on this journey of being a widow, and so I am excited about the graduation. At the same time, I'm so thankful that my faith is stable. I would say that it is stable today. Sometimes we can waver, and because of we live in these bodies, right? And these bodies are not what's perfect. And so we tend to waver sometime in faith and in belief when our faith and our foundation is not completely as solid as I thought it was. And so learning now to be anchored in God no matter what comes my way is a hard thing to say, but I'm thankful and grateful that I've learned that being anchored in the Lord is what, keeps you afloat. I've said this before, that everyone that becomes a widow or a widower don't make it on this journey, because it's a hard one to make it on. It's a fight each and every day to press your way, because there's so many other things that come with that loss. So you're pressing your way, you're pressing each and every day. Listen, some of you have not even had loss, but you're pressing because you may have had loss in divorce. You may have had loss in different things. You may have lost your job. You may have lost your home or your car. And so we have to press no matter what. We have to keep standing on God's promises no matter what, because guess what? He said he's going to perform it to make it perfect and to make it right. Whatever we find ourselves, whatever situation we find ourselves in, however we find, again, our situations are all different, but we all need God in our lives to be able to withstand this world that we live in, right? And so I just wanted to come on to say to you guys, I have spoke to a couple of people, and I say this every week, that there are real life people that have had real life experiences. And so a couple of weeks ago, I spoke to someone, and this person had got a bad report from the doctor and started to get their paperwork in order and in place because they had gotten a bad report. And they owned quite a bit of property, and they weren't married. They didn't have any children. And so they were putting things in place. And as they were getting things in place, it took a turn on them. And as soon as they had gotten the things in place, they had actually gotten a will that was in place. And as soon as they started getting those things in place, then they had the notary come to, I don't know if it was the hospital or the home, but the person took a turn and ended up passing away right in the midst of signing the notary papers for that person to be able to, have the things. Now, the person lived in California, and so what that person did not know is that they were only putting a will in place, which is better than nothing. But because California is a community property state, the will still would have probate. But it was good that the person was trying to put something in place. But I come on here each and every Sunday to tell you guys for us not to procrastinate so that things like that won't happen. Because we just have to plan ahead of time. And once you plan ahead of time, then you don't have to worry about it anymore. You don't have to, you'll know that you and your family are secure. So you want to make sure that you look into getting those things done. You want to make sure that if you have a trust, that you have funded your trust. Because you can have a trust and not have it funded. And it's no good. You'll think that you had everything in place and together, and it wasn't completed. You want to make sure that you signed in the right places. You want to make sure that whoever your executors are, that they have the right information, have the hard conversations with your loved ones, with your family members, with your spouse. Don't keep it a secret and just think that, you know what, it goes to that person when I die anyway, because that's not the truth. Especially in California, because we are a community property state. So there are 9 community property states. So go to your state and find out, is my state a community property state? So just to name a couple of them, there is California, there's Texas, there's Nevada, Arizona, are non-community property states, in which that means is that it's 50-50. So if you and your spouse have a home and you own it together, then it's 50% yours and 50% theirs. And what'll happen is, if you do not have your trust in place and your family find themselves in probate, then they're gonna start chipping off that person that passed away 50%. For instance, myself, my husband, because we had just purchased our home, so our home was in his name solely, and we were about to add my name to the home. But because we procrastinated and we kept hearing so many different things, and him being a truck driver and being out, it would have only cost us about $27 to actually add my name to the home, which we heard a lot of different other things. It was thousands of dollars, and so we just didn't get it done because we thought that it was more than what it would have been had we went. And so to make sure also that your deed says joint tenant with survivalship, so that your loved one would automatically inherit the portion of the split 50%. They would automatically inherit it, because our children had automatically inherited a portion of his 50%. Now, I have met a widow that was in the same position, and the children actually made her pay them out. And so we just never know. When death happens, People change. You know, you may think you can trust that person, and it goes different when it comes down to money and debt. But if you have it written down, then you don't have to worry about it. And so if you just have, um, if you don't have it, if it's not in black and white, if it's not legally binding, then it's like you didn't have anything at all. And so you want to avoid probate at all costs. I know it's expensive to do a trust, but I did do a trust myself. You can't get it done yourself. You have to educate yourself and then take it to a lawyer or a paralegal to look over it. I plan on getting my next workbook out soon. I don't know when, but I plan on getting it out soon, that so that people can go to it and kind of look and see, hey, what is this that I should be looking for if I'm going to use a lawyer? What is it that I should be looking for if I'm going to do it myself? Because a lot of people do it themselves, and a lot of people go to get packages that they can do them. But do you know what to do with the package? Do you know what to do after somebody has walked you halfway through, and then, for you to be able to fund it? So when you start hearing those words, fund the trust, then you'll start saying, what is that? Because that's what I was saying. I was like, fund the trust, what does that mean? That means that you put all of your assets that are important to you, your financial things, inside the trust to protect you from going through probate. And so have there been people that went to probate still after having the trust? Yes, because they did not fund the trust correctly, or they did not do it correctly. They may have gotten a portion of it done, and then they did not complete the rest of it. And so that's why it's just so important. The other thing was that I had heard about more loss of people unexpectedly passing away this past week. I hear it practically almost every week. There's somebody that probably or probably there's somebody calling me all the time saying, hey, this is what happened and what can I do? And sometimes it's at a point where it's too late. You can't do anything if you wait until the person passes away, or if you wait until the person becomes incapacitated. So you may have your home paid for and everything. You may not own a mortgage on your home. But if you think about it like this, if you were to pass away, there's going to be a loss, whether it's the retirement check, whether it's the Social Security check, whether it's the work check. There is going to be a loss of income. The income will not be the same anymore. And so what I just kind of had been suggesting, if you may be like me, stay-at-home wife, and you find yourself, losing your spouse, but did not prepare. And like I'm 60 now, so where am I going to work at to afford to keep the house afloat? And then for some of you that may not know, that young widows under 60, unless it's their pension, they don't get an income at all. So I suggest that you look into getting mortgage protection, or either look into getting a nice insurance policy that will cover the mortgage, that will cover the bills that you will be left behind with, because there's been so many widows that I've spoken to that have became homeless, that have, had to sleep in the car, had to live with their children. And so, it's not just because you're preparing ahead of time does not mean that death is knocking on your door. You just want to prepare ahead of time so that when it happens, that you will be prepared to live this new life that you're going to have to try to navigate and figure out. And so if you don't own property, well, if you do, or even if you own property, and even if you don't, it's important that you look into getting your power of attorney. Because guess what? Because we're the spouses, because we, you know, we just tend to think that we have the rights to say whatever over that person. If that person is not able to speak for themselves, say if they have a heart attack or stroke or something and they're still alive, but they can't speak for themselves, then the doctors will make the decisions. And even if you're the spouse, sometimes you may be able to get in there, but if that person cannot speak for themselves, they will not even give the parents the paperwork to, because of HIPAA, they won't release those things. Even if it's the spouse, it could be your child. So you want to look into getting your power of attorney as soon as possible. I mean, especially if you're still kind of waiting to see which way to go as far as getting your trust done, you need your power of attorney done so that if you become incapacitated, your loved one will be able to still carry on your bills and take care of, your portion may be a portion of the house note or the rent or whatever, so that your loved one would be able to have access to those things and make decisions for you after you've talked about what your wishes are. Because the law is that if you don't have these things in place, then they will make the decisions for you. If you don't have your trust in place, that's why Congress has made up this thing called probate, because they're going to make the decision for you. So if you don't take the time to make the decision for yourself, there will be a decision made, whether you do it or not. And so you want to just go ahead and you worked so hard for what you have, right? And so you want to leave a legacy, because the Bible says a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And so you want to leave your legacy. Not only do you want to leave that as a legacy, but you want to leave all of your hard work back to who you got it from. Like, you've worked so hard, you got up every day. I think about my dad, I think about my brother, I think about my husband, how hard they worked, how much they got up. And I realize now that they did it for their families. They did it for us to live comfortable, for us to have somewhere to lay our heads, to take care of us, to provide for us. And I mean, they really worked. My dad worked 2 jobs over 40 something years. And so somebody is calling me, you guys. It might go off for a minute. And so it is just so important. Hold on, you guys. It is so important that you just, take things done that you need to get done. What about it? Go ahead and get it done, right? And so the Bible says that because you know these things now, God will bless you for doing them, for having them, for getting them in place. Because listen, we blame a lot of things on God. We used to kind of blame more things on the devil, but on the enemy, but we blame so many things on God because we feel like God has not did what we wanted him to do, right? And so because that's just the way we are, even with our loved ones, we tend to put God in that same place as we put man. And so we have to check ourselves about that. We have to realize that, listen, God is far above all of this stuff that we have here. And so realize that the things that you have, he has blessed you with them. So that means that he entrusted you to do the right things, to take care of the things that he has blessed you with. Even though you've worked for it, he gave you the ability to obtain all of these things and to have these things, to have your spouses, to have your children, to have your loved ones. And so because he has blessed us with those things, then we need to be obedient and take care of the things that he has blessed us with instead of allowing the enemy to steal, kill, and rob us in the things that we have been so richly blessed with. And so that's what happens when you don't take the time to get your affairs in place and in order, because the courts is heavy. It's expensive. Your life is tied up with the courts. And so I was talking to someone, I can't remember who it was, but we were just talking about how, just think about there was a death in the family. And so the family is in an uproar. Everybody is talking about what belongs to who, what they're going to get and how they're going to get it, how they're going to delegate. And they haven't worked for anything, right? But, there's bickering within the family, and it can be very hard, So when you open up that probate, your whole entire life is put on hold, right? And so it took me a year, almost 2 years, to go through the probate process. And so what happens is your whole life is put on hold. So can you imagine if you have your income, your money, your finances are in that bank, and you open up that probate and you didn't know that you were opening that can of worms when you went there, said, hey, I'm going to open up this probate, but you don't know that all of the finances are at a halt until after the probate. So somebody came on with me. And so Tamika, I think you came on with me, sweetie.
No, you still think it's a good idea to holiday last day? If
I don't know what happened, but one of my sisters ended up coming on with me. Tamika, you are my live with me. I don't know how you got on me, but you are.
Oh, really? Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. Praise God. Let me, I don't know what happened.
I
I'm
don't
sorry.
Okay. I didn't remove you because it's going to block you permanently. Okay, you got it. And so that has happened before. I don't know what it did, but it's just I don't know. But yeah, your whole life is tied up into I'm sorry, your finances are tied up in the bank until after the probate is over. So how are you going to continue to pay your bills if your finances are tied up into at the bank until after the probate is over? And so I went, you know what, God just navigated me through this thing, honestly. He really did. If you guys get my book, No Man Plans to Fail, but many fail to plan, this one, it tells the whole story of what I went through with the courts and probate and different things like that. It tells the whole story of, well, a pretty good percentage of the story of me going through probate and how I kind of navigated. I don't know how I knew this, but I just kept thinking that they were going to put a lien on the house for so many other different things that was going on. And so I really didn't know that. Um, I guess I did with the. I didn't know that they would had seized the bank account because remember, the bank account that I was using was my husband's bank account, right? And so they were, everything had to do with him. They could have said, okay, well, you know what, we want the money out of the bank because my husband was a shopper. I say this all the time. He loved Nordstrom's. He loved Macy's. And so he shopped a lot. And so my husband had some debt. And because California is a community property state, they tell you, people will tell you, you don't have to pay their debt because you didn't sign anything. But because it's a community property state, they will threaten you and say, hey, there's a probate open. So when the probate is open, everybody is looking to see each day, they're looking to see, hey, there's a probate open. So where can we get our money back? How can we get our money back? Especially when they find out the person has been deceased and the person is deceased and they have a probate that's open. So there are professional people that look every day to see, hey, is there a probate open? How can we get our money back? And so you don't want to have your money and your finances tied up, or you don't want to leave your loved one where the finances are tied up and they can't get to them because you didn't take the time to get your affairs in place and in order. And so I have started doing private Zooms, just educating and telling people the things that they need to have get in place. I have referred some lawyers to some people that can afford to get it done. We typically do what we want to do, right? We typically have the money to do what we want to have the money to do for, right? So we can get this done, you guys. Listen, if you can't feel like you can't afford the lawyer to get it done at this time, because I know I couldn't afford it, but look into getting it done from a paralegal or look into getting it done by yourself. If you can, you don't have a lot of different things, but a lot of times people think that because they have their LLCs that they're covered, and they're not, especially if you're in business with someone else and say, for instance, the other person that you're in business with passes away and you guys don't have these things in place, and say, for instance, the spouse say, hey, you know what? I wasn't in business with you. I was in business with your husband, or I was in business with your wife. And now I don't want to be in business with you anymore. And so your spouse that may have had a portion of the business now can find themselves going through probate for their portion of the business because, like I said, people change when people die. When it comes down to money, you will be surprised of the behavior of people, even Christian people. So if you have these things in place and together, then you don't have to worry about it. Listen, if you love your loved ones, have the hard conversation. I've been saying this over and over and over again. So yesterday, I was able to speak to one of the sisters from the church. I went to Dr. Penny's fellowship on yesterday and was so blessed. And I had a sister come up to me and say, literally in tears, bawling. And she said, the message that you said at church that when you spoke and told your testimony, she said, my heart went out to you. But not only that, she said, I was just really tore up behind your testimony that you gave, that And she was not just tearing. She was crying, literally crying. And she said, keep coming back and telling us because it's much needed. I thought to myself, she said, I don't want to leave my family like this. I don't want to leave where my house, she said, I went to my job and I started looking into getting my affairs in order. And she don't know, she said I blessed her, but she don't know how much she blessed me because every time I hear that someone has taken action to get their affairs in order or in place, then it gives me more energy to keep coming back Sunday after Sunday, even if I feel repetitious, I still am coming back because I know without a shadow of a doubt that this is something that God has me on. And I'm determined to show up for you all, to show up because I know at the end of the day, it's God that gets the glory out of it all. And so no matter how many people tell me that they've gotten their stuff together, it just gives me great joy to know because I know how difficult this is. I know how hard this is. And I know as well that we continue to not think that possibly that this can happen to me. I feel like me and my family was untouchable. I'm telling you guys, it was the way I was brought up in my former church. I just felt like, listen, we're gonna live till we 70 plus. And that was just the teaching that we were, it was more like, you pray about it, you say it, what you say out your mouth is what's gonna happen. So I never in a million years thought that I would lose my husband at 54 years old. And so, and unexpectedly. So just because we're Christians does not mean that we're not going to lose our loved ones, that we're going to lose our spouses someday or even our own lives. So we don't know. So you don't want to leave them in the position either that they won't know what to do if it was to carry on. So if you're somebody that owns a home and the person passes away and you have not gotten your things in place and you may have to relocate, you may have to move. Well, you can't even just say, you know what, I'm gonna move. Not unless your house, your name is on the home and it says joint tenant with survivorship. You're not gonna be able to sell your property. You're gonna have to go through probate. They're gonna tell you that if your name is not on the home, and I mean all property. It can't be on one home. If you own an apartment building, you own a condo, your name needs to be on everything, and it needs to say joint tenant with survivorship in order to be able to sell that property. If you can't afford to stay there, you won't be able to do anything. And the main goal is to avoid that probate. Because when you open up that probate, that's when everything goes haywire. Everybody can come and say they want their money back. I say this, I've said this several times that my husband had a helicopter bill that was $70,000. His medical bill was $100,000. And so rightfully so, because we live in a community property state, they could have said, put a lien on my house. And it wasn't just that he's the one that signed for it. I mean, the doctors, they called me. Would I have signed for it? Absolutely, I would have signed for it. At the same time, these medical bills and different things like this can happen. We just never know. I was talking to a young lady yesterday as well, and she was letting me know about a friend of hers that got robbed. And I was like, I have not heard nobody get robbed in a long time. Like, are you serious? She went to the bank. She was going to the store, and this man snatched her purse. She decided to start running after him. She fell, broke her shoulder, and all kind of other stuff is happening. And she has really no one there with her that lives with her. And so the other sibling is kind of like, oh my God, lives out of state, but like, who are we going to get to help her? I need to get my stuff together because who am I going to get to take care of me is what the sister was saying. And so it just made me think again how we can become incapacitated. We don't know when we don't know when it may happen. But if you're prepared and if you have some mortgage protection, which will cover you if you become incapacitated, because listen, it's hard enough for us that have our spouses, that have our children, that, blended families that are doing it together. So can you imagine not being able to continue to pay the bills if someone is to take sick? So that's why it's so important. I keep going back and forth about this. And I just have to let it rest that because I don't know yet if my husband has some mortgage protection. Their insurance company are not going to call you. So I've only had one insurance company that called me and say, hey, we heard that your husband passed away and you were the beneficiary. Only one out of the other things that he had. But they're not going to call me. So I'm still in anticipation of finding something that he had mortgage protection to pay this house off, right? I'm believing God and trusting God. This house doesn't cost a whole lot of money. That my house note is going to be paid off so that I don't have to be struggling to get it paid, So if you get the mortgage protection and you become incapacitated, then they pay your mortgage to a certain percentage. If you pass away, it pays off the mortgage. So that goes to, that lets you know that, hey, I know that my loved one will be secured if if I was to leave here today. Like I said, it's a struggle. My kids, they have, it's two people that, it's a struggle for families that have both of you guys together. I know because I see it. I see the struggle. I went to the store today and I was like, oh my God, for a Roman tomato, $2.29 a pound. I have some seeds and my mom will be here next month. I'm getting ready to start planting me some stuff because that was ridiculous. And everything else that was in there. So can you imagine if it's difficult for you all that still have your loved ones, that still have some help, still have some support? What do you think it is for me? Even though God has been so good, he has provided every step of the way. Every step of the way. He may have came in right at the last moment, and I cannot lie to you. Have I been nervous? Yes, I have been. This is a tough task for me, especially when you were a stay-at-home wife. And, although I'm an entrepreneur, there's still not enough. Like I told the lady at the cemetery, she said, how many cakes will you have to make to pay your house note? I said, listen, I can't make enough cakes to pay my house note. People don't want to pay you, for one thing, but I can't make enough money to because you still have to pay out in order to even provide it. And so I had a good, over the past couple of weeks, I've had some things come up and they were like, oh, that's good. You made some money. And I'm like, child, I ain't made no money. It was like you got to pay it right then and there. So God provided right in the nick of time, but it's been like that. And I'm just trusting God that it doesn't have to be like that, where you are living day to day, not even so much as month to month, but day to day. for God's provision for you. And I know that you guys can attest that because you may not ever think about it, but it's true. You may not think about that things that you don't have because you have them, right? And it's kind of when you don't have it is when you kind of start thinking that you're more cautious or aware of the struggle, right? And so I just thank you guys for coming on today, and just want to let you know that if you started thinking about it, but you haven't taken the time to get it in place, please get it in place. Because as I was telling about the young lady before, that was trying to get the things in place and together and actually passed away in front of the notary. As the notary came to the house, they end up expiring right there. And so it was a good intentions. At the same time, a lot of us are not educated on having a will and a will only, but that they still have to go through probate. And especially when you have a lot of property, you know, you have to probate each piece of property. It's each state, if you have houses or property in each state, you would have to probate that. And so some people just walk away. The other thing I wanted to tell you guys about too is that if you had a loved one that passed away that did not have anything in place, and they may have had a bank account, you can't do the cars, the boat, or the home. But if they had maybe had a bank account, maybe had shares or investment accounts and different things like that, there is a small affidavit that you can fill out. So I've heard that California has changed from 166,225 to 188,000. So I have to look into that, but there is a form that you can get, because I do know people that have walked away because maybe their parent had passed away or their loved one had passed away, and they figured when you go to the bank, see the bank and different places, they have the different language that you won't know what they're talking about. So when they say, well, you know what, who's the person that's in charge of the estate? And so like me, I kept saying the estate, like I was married for 34 years. Why are you even asking me that? And so what happens is they'll tell you that you have to go to probate, and they won't tell you about this form, this small estate form, but you can fill out that small estate form and find out from your state how much they allow you to fill it out. But you can fill it out. If you need help filling it out, you can call me and we'll walk you through it. But I have been able to navigate quite a few widows to be able to get their spouses' money and different things like that, because I've also talked to people that walked away because they don't understand or know what the banks are asking them for. And so I learned this from a Caucasian lady that told me that they won't tell you that that what you need. They'll just tell you that you have to go to probate. And once you open that probate up, it is opened up to the whole entire world. So if you say, for instance, if you have children and your children are in that probate and they get some money, they inherit some money. Well, if they are in debt, if there's debtors coming after them, then that gives the rights to the debtors to come after their inheritance that was left to them, even though they went through the probate. And you also want to cover yourself from Medicare recovery. Medicare is a loan with no interest. And if you find yourself where your home is paid off and you or your loved one may find themselves in the convalescent home and you pass away there, Medicare has the right to recover their money if you open up that probate. If you don't open up a probate, then you're good. But if there's a probate open, then they can recover their money, which it will be hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they will, drain you down. With the probate, same thing. Probate, I think it's anywhere from 4 to 10% that they can take out of the equity out of your house. If you find yourself in probate and your lawyers and different things like that, they're going to charge you, it's like $40,000, $50,000 to do a probate. So I was telling you guys that I did the paperwork. I was able to get a waiver, but just to fill out the paperwork, it's like $500, right? And so if you don't have no money already, you become a widow or a widower, because I know widowers that had their wives was the breadwinner. And so because their wives were the breadwinners, they found themselves having to relocate, having to move somewhere else, and not having that income to come in. So remember that when you become a widow, if you're not 60 years old, you cannot even get your spouse's widow or widower, you cannot get their Social Security until after you turn 60 years old. If you're disabled, you're able to get it at 50. You can apply for it at 50. But other than that, you have to be 60 years old. So just think about this for those of you that are younger than 60 and you lose that spouse, and know that, am I going to be able to make it without that income? Because there's going to be a loss of income. So keep that in mind. Have the hard conversation. Look into getting that mortgage protection. Look into if you cannot qualify to get life insurance. Look into prepaying for your stuff. It's cheaper. And this helps the family. I was kind of talking to someone and they were talking about, cremations and stuff. And so I kind of thought about it to myself and I was like, we were having the conversation, but they started telling me about all the ashes that they have, all the family members. And I was like, I don't want no ashes. I don't. So that's something to think about too. That's me. That's my preference. I'm like, just let me lay you to rest somewhere, because I do not want to be responsible for ashes and, figuring out what to do with it. And then the next person, when you pass away, what do you do with your in-laws? And what do you, it's just something to think about. But if you cannot qualify to get life insurance, look into getting it, prepaying for your cremation, or prepaying for your service and different things like that, because it is much cheaper. Like I spend more because you're not in your right frame of mind, right? And so you can't just put it in the back of your mind that death is not going to happen to me or my loved ones. And so I would say from day one, day two, if you even have children, you have grandchildren, and you want to get them some things, get them some life insurance. Day two, start paying for it. And guess what? When they get in their 20s and 30s, they'll be able to have, a little cushion of some money. And, we buy so many different things for them. We try to do so much for them. Remember how back in the day we used to say, hey, let's start a college fund. No. Let's start a burial fund. Let's start have some life insurance for our grandchildren, and for our young children, and for our adult children. I have to keep getting on my adult children. I'm like, you guys, I get on here every Sunday talking, right? And I don't want to have to do no GoFundMe, and I cannot afford to lay you to rest. I paid your insurance as long as I could. Now it's your responsibility to take care of you and your family, right? And so, other thing I just came back to mind is that I wish they could do this. I wish they could afford to do this, is for your kids to actually get a policy on you, a good policy on you that would cover, like, I wish my kids can afford to get a policy on me. Each one of them get a policy on me that they will be able to cash out. And hey, if I leave before the house is paid off, they can pay the house off and they can do, whatever they want to do. So those are just a couple of suggestions. But if you do not own property, but you have a job, you have a car, you have a bank account, it's essential that you look into getting your power of attorney. And again, I will educate you and let you know exactly what to do, how to fill it out, how to fill the form out, where to get the form from, and get it done. But do not have nothing at all, because at least if you have your power of attorney, that person will be able to carry on. So each person needs their own power of attorney. Each couple, each person, each individual needs their own power of attorney, so that the things can keep going on. Because a lot of times people say, well, you know what, I have my beneficiaries written down, and so if you don't pass away, that's the only time that the beneficiary will go into play. So if you have it, then that loved one would be able to continue on paying the bills, say, from your income, or be able to continue on with life like, normal, until God gives you your healing. So I am finished. Please like, tag, and share the information. Even if you have your things together already, please share the information. I guarantee you, I will bet my bottom dollar that someone that do not have their affairs in order. Do not be selfish with this, because it's very difficult to be going through this, to be, trying to get things in place and in order, especially when we have unexpected death, and we have unexpected, like the lady, I can't imagine her getting her purse taken, and she started running after the guy, fell and broke her shoulder. And I was like, and messed up some stuff and other stuff in her body. That's what I'm talking about when I say incapacitated unexpectedly. Possible could have been a death that could have happened to her. My daughter's best friend, 32 years old, she just turned 32 December, passed away unexpectedly, expecting her first baby. And a young couple, they had been married maybe 7 years, and she passed away unexpectedly, and they had to do cesarean, take the baby, because she passed away. And we don't have much information, but I just lift her and her family up in prayer. I just can't imagine, but I know without a shadow of doubt that she loved the Lord, and I know she's with the Lord. And that's what makes it a little easier once you start realizing that we miss our loved ones dearly, but when we really know where they are, then it lightens the hurt a little bit, after you've, mourned and kind of made your way through this thing. But if you know that they have accepted Christ as their Lord and Savior, then you know they're with the Lord, because it's one place or the other that you're going when you leave here. But the Bible says that to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. And so those of our loved ones that we know that are in Christ, we know where they are. And so they're not here with us physically, but they're more alive than we are. They have experienced the experience, right? And so because God has promised us an inheritance of eternal life, even God has the inheritance for us. So we think about our children, we think about our legacy, we think about inheritance. And so sometimes people can be bickering and complaining and thinking that stuff belongs to them, but it is awesome to know that God has an inheritance for me. That means that's something great, right? That's something great to look forward to be able to see my loved ones again, even though we would be in a different position as far as me and my husband. We won't be husband and wives, but to be able to see them again, what a great family reunion will that be? You know, they're not just not existing anymore. They're, like I said, are more alive than we are. And so they have experienced the goodness of God and his promises. And so I just wanted to share that information with you guys today. And it is such a blessing to hear someone say, I've taken the initiative to start getting my affairs in order. It is such a displeasure to hear that I've been coming on Sunday after Sunday and that the vicissitudes of life happens and it's too late, you know, to start looking into it. So if you know you own property, look into that mortgage protection. If you know that you may be challenged, you may know someone that is challenged with their memory, with remembering things or a sickness in their bodies, don't sit on that. Don't procrastinate. Start getting things in place before that person is incapacitated, and then there's nothing that you can do. So if you have your trust and you may need to give it a tune-up, there may be some changes that have happened. If you've had a loved one that passed away already, take their names off of those important things, because what happens is when you pass away, your loved ones will end up having to go get death certificates for everybody that they had that you left as a beneficiary. And it will take more time for them to be able to get the finances where it could have just been, you know, handed to them. And so have the hard conversations with your loved ones. Um, I know it's a hard conversation to have. Everybody don't like to talk about death, but listen, we all have an appointed time with death. Just like if we had our appointed time to come into this world, even though I was born 2 months late, but God knows all things, right? And so I was talking to my mom about that one day. I recorded her because a lot of people don't believe that I was born 2 months late. And so almost 13 pounds. And so I was having her tell me, you know, the story again and recording her because I said, people are not going to believe me. So I said, well, Mom, you know, they say, well, maybe she missed, you know, her cycle or something. She said, no, I knew every time I was pregnant. And so she said, I like the cat killed her because she was a little small statured woman. And so she said, she told my dad, I'm never having no more kids after me, but I'm the perfect one. No, not for real. But yeah, but we all have an appointed time and we have to come to the realization and understand that we won't all be here forever, and that loss is going to continue to happen. And so We can't think that we're too good enough and that because we're Christians, that it's not going to happen to our family, because that's the furthest from the truth. So I pray that you guys heard something that blessed you on today. And please like, tag, and share. All you have to do is press the little @ thing, and then it'll say follow your followers, or you can highlight it on your page. If you got something from this, please leave me a message. It really encourages me to know that you guys are hearing and taking action, that you're even thinking about, I really have to get this together. Get your little composition book and write down your spouse's social security number, passwords to your email addresses. All digital things need to be written down. Make sure that you have your passwords that need to be done. I think about this. My husband had passwords to everything, right? So I couldn't even change the Ring camera, the alarm system. That then people was giving me a hard time. So if you just, I know you just thinking, oh, you know what? I'm just doing it, and no. Have one email address that you take care of your household business with, and share that with each other. Share the information. Make sure that you have beneficiaries on everything, and go back and check it, because I've talked to several people that said, you know what, I checked that and I did not have a beneficiary, or I had my ex-spouse on as the beneficiary, or your loved one may have passed away already and you have that person still as your beneficiary. Then it will go to the next of kin. So you want to make sure, because you're the spouse does not mean that it will automatically go to you. And remember, we're in California. For those of us that are on the line in California, we are a community property state, so it will go trickle down, trickle down, trickle down. I have a loved one that we were going through the probate system at the same time, and her stepdad had no children, and because that was her stepdad, he was the one that was inheriting the home of her mom's that she had before they were married. And had he passed away, then her children would have been disinherited, because they would have went to his next of kin, which means that his siblings would have gotten her mother's house that she probably thought she was leaving to her children. And so we went through probate together and we got things done and in place, but that goes to show you how things can happen, and you can disinherit your own children by not putting things in place. You can't just say, this is what I want to go to my daughter, this is what I want to go to my son. I don't care if it's a car or whatever. If you want to have it, you have to have it written down. You have to have things in place correctly. So if you have your power of attorney and you say, with my power of attorney, okay, this is what I want. I want my son to have my Bentley, right? And I want my daughter to have this and that. Well, if you don't have that written down, then that possibly you're going to be fighting over it, and it's going to get in the hands of someone you don't want to get into, right? Okay, so I love you guys with the love of the Lord. Please like, tag, and share. I am going to be selling these ties. This one is my Honey Booze. I had quite a few people asking me about them, and but these are actually my husband's ties. So I am going to purchase some so that I will have them for sale real soon. Okay. All right. I love you guys. Please look into getting the books, look into getting your affairs together and in place. write down some instructions of what you want until you can get it in place. And again, if you've had a loved one that you've lost recently and they did not have these things in place, they may have had bank accounts, they may have had 401k, they may have had shares and different things like that. There is a form that you can fill out or that your loved one can fill out in case they had a spouse. If the bank asks them, tells them that they have to go through probate, there is a way that you can fill out a small estate affidavit. I believe the section code is 11350. But if you need that, just give me, call me or DM me, and I will most definitely help you to navigate to be able to get that where the banks will keep the finances. Okay. All righty. Love you guys. Bye-bye.